Hello and welcome to Dice Masters United. I'm Spug.
I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Peter.
Coming up in this episode,
we're talking about a subject that we all have a lot of experience of. Bad rolls.
We'll also be reflecting on the recent Dice Masters vs. Cancer online tournament and considering which is the best Tier 2 win condition in the modern meta.
And we'll be taking a look at an intriguing Doctor Doom card that will join the game in the Secret Wars set.
All that and more in the latest episode of Dice Masters United.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. It's good to have you with us, and thank you for joining us. And we've got a bit of we've got an eclectic mix of stuff that we're looking at tonight. We've got a bit of gameplay, we've got a bit of reflection, and we've got a bit of kind of spoiler action, if you like, looking forward to a card that's coming up in the Secret War set. But first, Ben, we actually met another Dice Masters player, didn't we? Who was it? And what happened?
Well, I was walking around central London.
Yeah.
And as I often do, I get called out, and everyone knows who I am, obviously.
Of course. As with, I'm sure all Dice Masters world champions have that.
Well, actually, in saying that, this is off topic, but I'm a teacher, and the students at school have found out that I play a game called Dice Masters.
Oh.
And have been Googling me, apparently. Which
oh.
So anyway.
But it's a good job you don't use your real name when it comes to all your social media, isn't it?
It's true, yeah. So anyway, we went to a bar in central London, which has board games.
It does.
And met up with Spug and a very nice chappie called Dana.
Indeed.
Yeah, so Dana, General Nemesis, was in the UK and deigned to grace us with his presence. So, we met up and played some non-Dice Masters games at a very nice bar in London.
It was really cool. Dana was over visiting from Canada. I think he was over here for a kind of family wedding on his wife's side, and we took the opportunity to meet up at Drafts, which is a board game cafe just kind of in the underbelly beneath Waterloo Station. In this tunnel that basically goes under the railway arches. It's all full of graffiti, but they've made bits of it into little sort of retail outlets and stuff, and they've got this board game cafe called Drafts, and we met there, and it was great. We played games that, maybe slightly to my shame, I'd never played before. And I don't think Dana had played either, actually. But thankfully, Ben knew what he was doing. Azul.
Yeah. Very nice.
You guys familiar with that?
I've played that.
Yeah. James is staying silent.
James is not saying
I'm trying to think. I think, I've played that. Is it a tile laying thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I was getting confused about the... what do those dogs say in Ghostbusters?
Zul.
Oh, they are Zul. Yeah, that's right. Not Azul.
There is no Dana, only Zul.
Yeah, that's right. Oh dear. Yeah. What's going on there? That's a bit scary. But no, we didn't get slimed. There weren't any kind of demonic dogs, thankfully. But we did play Azul, and then we played Baron Park, didn't we? Which was a game again about bears and
Park.
I hate Baron Park.
Oh, why?
Why do you hate Baron? It's like the least offensive game of all time.
Crikey, O'Reilly. I really don't like these. What are they called? Where you have to fill. That's it. I don't like them. Where you have to fill space with stuff. Ugh. I mean, the bears are sweet and that, but God.
Just Tetris.
Is it like spatial awareness?
Well, I never liked Tetris.
Well,
I think we all filled our boards, didn't we, or something crazy? Or close enough.
No, I mean, that's the end game trigger,
Yeah.
Whoever fills their boards best, basically.
Yeah, it was... that was pretty fun. And then you guys graciously tidied everything away into the pre-marked baggies that they had for polar bears and toilets and all that kind of stuff.
They're very thematic, yeah.
Yeah, well, I dashed off to get my tray.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, it was a school night, so we couldn't hang out for long.
Yeah. But it was really great to see Dana. Yeah, General Nemesis. Obviously, as Ben said, he is recently crowned US champion and narrowly missed out on becoming world champion, losing in the final to Laurier. But it was really great to see him and have a bit of transatlantic kind of Dice Masters connection, which is really cool. Someone that we wouldn't have otherwise met if it wasn't for the great game of Dice Masters. So, Dana, it was really good to see you. And
very nice guy.
Yeah, it was.
We knew that anyway. We knew that before anyway, but it's nice confirming it in real life.
Is he tall? He looks like he would be tall.
Tall in spirit.
I think he's like this.
It's funny. You can't really tell on videos.
Well, there are pictures that exist, aren't there? So I think he's a similar height to me, isn't he? I think Ben. And I'm not particularly tall. I'm kind of very average height.
Good to know.
So there you go. 5'11", if you need to know. But let's not talk about height. Let's talk about Dice Masters. So,
let's talk about length and breadth.
Let's not go there. Shall we move on to our actual first segment, which is a subject, as you said, James. It may feel like some of us have more experience with this particular subject than others. And I can see that James is sitting forward in anticipation of being called to speak. Because we're talking...
I'm trying to remember.
We're talking bad rolls and how you deal with them. Sometimes it just feels like everything you're rolling is just going wrong and you're not getting any characters and you're not getting the energy that you need. And it just seems like the dice absolutely hate you. But we thought we wanted to talk a bit about how you deal with that, because let's face it, it's a reality for every Dice Masters player. It's not something that you can get around. We play a dice game, there is random chance, and sometimes the dice just don't go your way. So when that does happen, what are some of the principles that we can think about that might help us through those situations? And who wants to go first? I'm hesitant on calling somebody out, but I can see that James is excited. He's put his hand up.
I've got something to say. I've had a cup of tea and I'm feeling positively lively.
I like it.
Well, I think before we get into mitigation strategies, we should perhaps point out, maybe we don't need to, but I'm going to point out the obvious, which is that you should, when it happens and all this, they come out energy. Probably they come out double energy, and then you roll them again, and they come out single energy. You should probably remember that, statistically speaking, across all of your Dice Masters, you are not being punished. You are not being selected by some. Well, presumably, perhaps I'm wrong.
It's just bad karma.
It's just happening at. You remember the bad stuff. That's just how life is. Yeah. And the first thing you should remember is that that's the case, and don't worry about it too much. And then I'll leave the others to deal with the actual mitigation strategies. But don't cry. That's the first thing.
No. I suppose one of the things is as you said, James, is to kind of expect that you will be faced with bad rolls, because you aren't always going to roll what you want. And I think part of this is sort of being prepared to expect things to go wrong.
Don't let it put you on tilt, I suppose, in a competitive situation, because it definitely can.
Yeah.
Just take a few deep breaths.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And other cliches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're only cliches because they're true.
Rome wasn't built in a day. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. All that. But how can we kind of plan ahead, though? Ben, what sort of things can we do, to sort of prepare for the possibility of some bad rolls happening?
Well, this is, I suppose, another cliche, but what I tend to think about, I think it was a Reserve Pool podcast back in the day. I can't remember who exactly on it said it, but it was something like, whenever you take a first roll, so the obvious mitigation that we have inbuilt into the game is we get a reroll step.
Yeah.
Right. So in that reroll step, it's really important to think what can go wrong. So when you roll your dice before you reroll, always think what can go wrong if I choose to reroll.
like if I roll,
so it might be
3
so you might, for example, have your characters out, roll a couple of psychics, not have enough energy to field them.
Oh, that's the worst, isn't it?
Yeah. Then you think, okay, should I re-roll?
Insult to injury.
Should I just re-roll these psychics? So let's give you an actual situation that you can envision. So you roll, let's say you have 2 characters, both roll on 2 energy to field.
Yeah.
You also have 4 sidekicks. You roll, let's say, 2 sidekicks.
Yeah.
And 2 energy.
Yeah.
So you have enough to field one of the characters, but not the other. A lot of kind of decision making that I see sometimes is that people will just choose to re-roll the 2 sidekicks.
Yeah.
But you should think about what can go wrong from that situation. And I would generally make a decision about which of those two cost fielding characters do I want the most.
Yeah.
And then I'll re-roll the other one in that re-roll step, because you might get on cheaper. You sort of mitigate for the fact that you might roll a psychic back, or you might have some energy to do something else with. So always think about what can go wrong from here, not what can go right. And I think there's a tendency to think, okay, if I re-roll these things, everything I'll get back perfectly.
Yeah.
And then everything else I can keep because I'm going to re-roll this 1 dice to get this 1 energy face I need. But actually, what you should be thinking about is actually, am I realistically going to be able to field all these characters, or should I be more realistic, re-roll one of them, and maybe it does come back on the same face.
Yeah.
And maybe still stuff goes wrong, but it's not got worse. If you know what I mean? You're already in a bad situation, but what can go more wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
Bear in mind, obviously, if you re-roll 2 dice, you have a 94% chance of re-rolling exactly the same 2 sides.
94%?
Wait, what?
No.
Or you mean a 6%? Wait,
9 times over 10.
If you deliberate,
you're just making this up?
No, there is 100%.
Of course I am.
100%. Well, not 100%. There is a 94% chance. If you spend any longer than a minute deliberating over which 1 die to roll,
it'll come back.
And you roll that 1 die, it's coming back the exact same face it was.
As punishment for your
agonize. You agonize over. This is a shield, but I really want it to be a question mark or a bolt. It's a shield right now, but a question mark or bolt would just be perfect. Oh, if I risk it, I might not get that thing. Oh, what should I do? Roll it. I can shield it.
On the other hand, don't be too hasty when you need a shield to buy your Franklin's Galactus. Try not to re-roll the only shield you have in haste.
Oh yes, we'll get to that, James. Don't you worry.
One of the things this played out in when Professor X ramp was a thing back in the days. One of the things that I used to do, basically, no matter what, was rolling on my re-roll step. If I don't get any masks, I won't even care about what energy I do get. I'll just re-roll all of them, all the psychics back.
Right.
Aggressively re-roll.
That's
totally stuck in my head. Either aggressively re-roll for masks or psychics, depending on the situation.
Yeah. Whereas people wouldn't. People would be like, actually, okay, so this turn I need to buy an Oracle.
Yeah.
So let me set aside 3 energy because I'll get that other mask to buy that for. Actually, just re-roll everything.
Yeah, yeah. Because the chances of you've only got a 1 in 6. Well, I suppose a 1 in 3 chance of getting a mask or a question mark, haven't you?
And by increasing the number of dice you re-roll, you increase the number of times that can happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I suppose the other thing to bear in mind at that point is what globals might be available. I mean, obviously there are kind of spin down globals for sidekicks, things like Black Dwarf or Intellect Devourer, things that can turn sidekicks into useful energy if you want to.
So that's moving away from kind of inbuilt game mechanics to card mechanics that you can bring along to help.
Yeah.
The spin down globals are really good if you can make better use of them than your opponent. Which you could do back in the day more than you can now, I feel like. Particularly with, I suppose that's not current modern, but was it the Supreme Intellect?
Intellect Devourer.
Intellect Devourer. I knew it was clever somehow.
Yeah.
They let you spin down to any energy face, and that was just equally good for anyone at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ended up not being used as much, even though it's a more powerful global.
Yeah. Yeah. As opposed to like the Black Dwarf, which just spins it down into a fist.
Which is very good in that specific circumstance with the Barry Allen, for example.
Oh, when you need a fist to buy it.
Yeah. Or to prep. So,
what was your favourite spin down ever? Just as an aside. Oof. I'm going with Technus Imperative Cyborg. I don't know.
That one was good.
That card was really good though.
Bifrost. Just because it looked nice.
It did look nice.
The Rainbow Bridge. It did look good.
The only card I ever actually actively wanted as a foil.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I like Billy Club.
Yeah.
Billy Club was a good one.
I mean, I took that on all my Mimic teams because it was actually additional removal as well.
Yeah.
But I like Black Dwarf. That's pretty good.
Yes. And that's the... So, actually, what have we got spin down wise in Modern at the moment? Is Black Dwarf actually the only one currently?
I think Black Dwarf. And it's had a bit of a ruling because I remember I think I was going to put an errata in one of my videos. The way it's written, it seems like you can spin any psychic on any face to the fist, but in fact it's only psychic character types. Is that right?
Oh, I see, yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Which generally is how people played it anyway, wasn't it? Generally, you get.
That's how they used to be played, the energy, but I'm not sure about that one. Yeah.
So you have to field it. You have to field it, do you?
It can be in your reserve pool, but it has to be on a pawn face.
Okay.
Which is barely mostly. It doesn't make any difference, right? Because if it was in the reserve pool, you could just field it for free anyway.
Yeah, but if you had
sometimes you can't,
like a Green Devil Mask in the field or something,
or some kind of thing that triggers when fielded or whatever. Yeah. Do we want any of the... So there's some big mitigation globals that we don't have anymore, that we did have for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Parallax.
That's one of the massive ones.
That just makes things worse.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about those individually? Because there's a few there. So the big one, I think, for me, Parallax, Clayface are the two biggest ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Clayface is... Who can remember offhand the text for Clayface? Surely we all can.
Hey, Mask, you may place a die from your use pile on any energy face in your reserve pool. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, once per turn you may take a die from your use pile and add it to your reserve pool on any energy face.
Close enough.
Yeah, not bad. So so you're talking... So, Jay, Ben, we're sort of moving more into sort of before the game even starts in terms of prepping and team building for sort of difficult eventualities, aren't we?
Yes, I mean, that's where you do most of your mitigation work, I think, probably.
Yeah.
And I suppose we should mention why we're bothering to do this.
Yeah, why are we?
So it comes down to, I guess...
We want to win.
Yeah, we want to win. It's a dice game. Things are going to go wrong. It's whoever basically can make it go wrong the least for them.
Yeah.
In particular, we often talk about the 3-turn theory.
Yeah.
Which is the idea, basically, in the first 3 turns, you should be in a state where you can win the game. Or that your game is going well enough that you're on to winning and ahead of your opponent because you've kind of pre-planned your first 3 turns and all eventualities for that.
Yeah.
So if things go wrong in those 3 turns, you need to inbuild some mitigation so that you can make the best of those situations better than your opponent can.
Yeah. And I think, Peter, I mean, some of that team building stuff comes down to giving you choices early in the game, doesn't it? Like if you're dead set on having a 2-cost fist character on the first turn, but you don't roll any fists or question marks, you need options, right? I mean, do you want to talk a bit about those sort of team building choices for the early game?
Yeah, so some choices that you could make are adding 2 costs of different energy types. Mm-hmm. So you get a 2-cost fist and a 2-cost bolt or whatever. So most of the time you will be able to buy at least 2 of them. Make sure your cheapest thing is less than 3. It's a good thing because you might roll a sidekick turn 1 and then you have nothing to buy. So
just having a 2-cost basic action also can be.
Yeah, for example, that is also a way to get around it because then you can buy it no matter what energy you roll. Make sure it's a 2-cost basic action that you actually want to buy, though. Not something like
distraction.
Distraction is not that bad. I mean, static field is terrible to buy.
That's true.
But the global is good.
Poker Knight's not a 2-cost, is it? Isn't that the worst basic action in the whole game?
What?
Poker Knight.
Poker Knight, yeah.
That's
that was okay in that Harley's Hyena, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love it that you have a good use for everything.
There's use for everything.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter, carry on. So, yeah.
But making sure you can actually do something on turn 1, like 99% of the times, is a smart move. Yeah. Something which I don't always do.
So don't have anything that doesn't cost less than 4, particularly if you're going first, because you could be in trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes you'll just have only mask characters on your team, and you don't roll a mask, and then your first turn is just lost unless you bring some useful globals.
Yeah.
But that might be our next thingy.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to talk about any other sort of good mitigation globals? Ben, you mentioned Parallax, and we mentioned the spin down.
Parallax is the devil.
So, should we say what Parallax does? I mean,
we definitely should say
what Parallax
does. Never. Parallax says
day 1, lose the game.
No, it doesn't say that. It actually says use 1. It doesn't say pay 1.
Oh.
It says use 1 generic. Reroll any number of your dice before your attack step. That's been errated, apparently. So basically, as long as you've got energy to pay for stuff, you can just keep rolling and just spend and spend and spend and spend your energy until you have nothing left to spend, and you still haven't got what you want.
and you're missing lethal because you had it like 3 rolls ago.
You re-rolled it. Yeah, I mean, he can work as mitigation because he can give you an extra turn if you're rolling lots of dice. You know, Ben, you joke about it, but if you were rolling loads of dice with Professor X frequently, then you probably often did have a lot of energy that you could use to re-roll stuff if there was a character that you desperately needed.
Yeah, or
Parallax is type. Parallax is not bad because it's a trap. It is bad also because it's a trap, but Parallax is bad because it removes the variance. It just makes the game horrible.
Yeah.
Takes the fun out of it.
Well, it takes the fun for your opponent, right? Well, it's fun for you because it's roll lots of dice all the time.
Yes.
But you basically can spend turns sitting there watching your opponent do stuff. And we've complained about this in the past. Any team that does that. Yeah. But watching someone else roll dice is not a very fun thing to do. Rolling dice is fun.
No. Yeah.
I mean, especially
there should be a balance.
But what made Parallax very strong, I suppose, and it takes it away from the mitigation conversation, is that you can re-roll out characters that are already in the field, right?
Yeah.
If it was limited to only dice that you rolled, I think there might be an argument for having it back, and that's kind of maybe where I like to see it. So you can only roll dice in the reserve pool. You can roll dice that are in the... So that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
But once you worked out that you could roll back out when fielded characters...
Oh.
Health bloody thief.
And then keep spinning that was just brutal.
Yeah.
Gross.
Oh dear, not good fun. Were there any other sort of good mitigators that we want to talk about? I mean, I suppose things like
there are.
Go on, Peter.
There are certain characters that give you an extra reroll during your roll and reroll step, like what's her face, Felicity Smoke, and Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean it's an investment, but it can really save your bacon.
Yes.
Getting that extra reroll.
Or even something like
Raccoon, I think, well.
Rocket, yeah. Or even something like Leto, who was always so frustrating, but she could turn all your dice into psychics if you wanted.
Yeah,
it's a different sort of proposition.
If it's psychics that you want, that's
if it's psychics you want,
way of getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point is, you need to have these kind of measures in place in your team, or maybe you don't need to, but then you need to work out. Probably what we're going to go on to next, which is ensuring that if you miss a roll, how do you get back round?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that, Ben?
Probably why in the current
Mr. Bloody Sinister.
in the current, so that's probably why in the current modern as it is, these kind of mitigation techniques don't really have a place. We have a global.
We don't
Sinister.
We don't want to completely undermine the whole point of this little segment.
Okay. We don't really need mitigation for your roles much anymore.
You won't always have Mr. Sinister, but yes, I take your point. With Mr. Sinister, it does make it much easier to get stuff around more quickly.
And the reason why, so Mr. Sinister basically you pay 2 generic energy to field a psychic and move a die to your use pile.
Yeah,
all the other way around. Actually.
Die. Yeah,
it has to be psychic die. Yeah. Psychic die to your use to your prep area and field a psychic from your use.
Yeah.
So that obviously churns the bag. It's very similar to Professor X. Although with Professor X, you still could use some of that mitigation because you need to roll specifically masks. The problem with Sinister is because it's too generic, any energy is applicable for it. So even if you mess up on any of your rolls, whatever rolls you mess up on, they're going to give you energy, most likely. So it's so powerful to keep just your bag thin. Keep coming back around to it.
Just in various ways, Mr. Sinister is the the great sort of the great mitigator because he not only culls your bag, so there's because he's fielding psychic, so there's less there, so you get round to the stuff that you missed more quickly, as well as the ramp and the churn that Ben mentioned. But also he's an energy dump, so even the energy that you do miss, you can bloody use on his very global. So
but also the other thing is, if you miss a bunch of characters, he's still providing some kind of blocking for you as well with the psychics. He's ultimate. So it's a problem, and maybe why mitigation for roles is not so prevalent anymore. Yeah. One thing we haven't talked about so far is the mitigation for bad rolls. Yeah. But we also have some other variants in our game, which is pulling dice from the bag.
I'm really good at that. I can't roll the coffee bag. I can pull like a...
Yeah, I'm not bad at pulling. I can't roll dice, but I can.
Particularly when they got stickers on, James?
The stickers come off on your fingers.
He's a sticky bandit.
That little secret pocket inside your dice bag.
Yeah, quite.
But we also have that variant, and there's some stuff that they've done less with that, I think. But there is some stuff, particularly some stuff coming with the I can't remember the name of the spoiler. The one that's a bit like Red Tornado,
where you can
accept that it's not.
You throw stuff, but you throw stuff. Yes, a Kang. What's a Kang do? You throw stuff in your bag before you pull it.
That we talked about. That we
exclusively
revealed
that one. Yeah.
By DM United.
You can put three dice from your field zone into your bag before you draw, and then you draw 3 extra.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, so that's a really powerful ability because it mitigates the dice you're pulling. You get a better chance before you roll. You get a chance of what you're actually rolling, which is also
perhaps another example of that might be bag resetting, right? Because if you don't reset your bag, you've got a
bag control.
Twice as many dice to pull from, and you're less likely to pick what you actually want.
Yeah. So bag management is also a big factor, but obviously we won't always have Mr. Sinister. People don't play it in every single game, believe it or not. But the other thing that in competitive they do.
When it's not, when it's banned. Yeah.
But Ben, I think you've got some thoughts on the whole kind of, if you miss the thing that you want, do you buy another one of those things, or do you try to ramp round for the one that you've already bought? What are your thoughts on that?
No.
Okay.
That's clear.
A or B? No.
It depends entirely, I suppose.
Yeah.
On what that thing is, but for the most part, you're better off spending that energy on making sure you get the next dice round quicker. The dice you already have round quicker, rather than buying another one to throw in.
So rather than have to use Mr. Sinister or something similar, or prep globals or whatever.
Yeah.
to get stuff round and have another go at the one that you missed first time round. And if it doesn't roll that time, throw it out of the window and get another one.
Do you guys do that thing where you like if a dice hasn't rolled for a couple of turns, you put it back on the card and take another dice?
I mean, all the time. I've seen you do that a lot.
That's a good thing with New Modern is that we have dice from draft packs, so it's okay to throw them away every once in a while.
That's right. Yeah.
Unlike the campaign boxes.
That's true.
Yeah. Have you ever tried melting? Have you ever tried melting one? I'm intrigued to know.
I have not.
No. I'm surprised that James hasn't tried that.
I'm the least likely person to do that.
That's not good for the environment.
Fair enough.
No, that's not the reason at all. The other day, I was out bird watching, and I reported to my friend that the water level was very low in this particular lake that I was next to, and he said, "Yeah, you can go and walk on this little concrete pier out into the water." And I said, "But why would you do that?" And he said, "What, for fun?"
Yeah.
I said, "But you might fall in. You've got definite increased risk of falling in with no perceivable reward." And for the same reason, I would not burn my Dice Masters dice.
Oh, okay.
Just not a risk taker. I would burn the house down, probably.
Oh, well, that's not recommended.
To avoid that.
I mean, that would be bad. But I mean, let's delve a little bit into the sort of psychological side. But James, because you sort of mentioned this a little bit earlier about not of bird watching, but of let's not talk about birds. About the psychologically effective. That's true.
Do carry on.
No, there was no bird quiz a few.
That's right.
Yeah, apart from that, but that was Dice Masters to be fair. Anyway, sorry, Smoke. Go
on. When the dice are seemingly against you, it can feel as if nothing is going right, and you can sort of lose the plot a bit. I mean, you're probably the person who's complained most vociferously about missing stuff, and as you say, the statistics for all of us are probably very, very similar. Do you want to talk a little bit about that sort of psychological side?
Because I handle it so well.
Yeah, you always handle it perfectly.
I think I said really what all there is to it, which is at the beginning, which is just have to recognise the fact that it's at the end of the day it's just a game, and you are not being picked upon by anybody, I don't think. And just take a few breaths, and I think Ben's quite good at this because Ben actually rolls probably. It would seem that Ben does seem to roll worse than me, if anything. But he just sort of gets on with it. He accepts it much more. It's very sort of calm about it and gets on with it and figures out what to do about it. And I think that, just get on with the job. Stop moaning. Don't be like me.
I think you have to understand that, actually saying that, sometimes I just don't play dice because I know that I don't roll them well. A classic example of this, that I can remember very well, is the AVX Wolverine.
Yeah. The
one that when it attacks, it gets +4 attack, +4 defense for so many dice it attacks.
Yeah.
I would never play that card because I hated those dice. They would never roll.
Right.
Similar thing with the Deadpool.
Just give in to your superstitions. That's the...
Yeah, but then don't play them and you're fine.
Yeah. If you don't play them, you can't roll them badly.
Exactly.
No, you could apply that to all dice, though.
Yeah. You just don't play Dice Masters, and
exactly.
Problem solved.
But it just
like a card-based game.
I mean, card games are not necessarily any better, are they?
No,
in terms of what you draw.
You won't have any bad rolls.
No, that's true. You're going to be bad rolls. You've got some very bad draws. But I mean, sometimes it certainly feels as if you play against some very good players, and it feels like they are rolling really, really well. And in a very small sample size of just one game, then it may be that they do roll better than you on that particular occasion. But generally speaking, it feels like the better players, they give themselves options. They might have the globals, or they might have, another 2-cost character that they can buy if the first thing they want to buy doesn't work out. They've got a plan B, and even if the plan B doesn't work, they've got a plan C. So, there's always ways that you can use the energy that you've got even if it isn't quite what you wanted. And, sometimes I think that does kind of come into it. But on the other hand, sometimes things just go really badly and you cannot roll a character for toffee. And I think
that means you die and lose the game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just what happens sometimes.
That is the reality of playing a dice game, that, you cannot eliminate that from the game. And, in many ways, that's what we love and hate about the game of Dice Masters, in that, you never really know what's going to happen on any one given turn. You might think you're about to lose, but suddenly your opponent misses a key character. I mean, they might have a 75% chance of rolling it with 2 rolls, but they don't get it, and suddenly there's an opportunity arises. It's all part of the thrill of a dice game.
Crikey, though, that 75% chance sometimes doesn't look like 75%. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Really doesn't. But
it's like
remember, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's like the person about to take a penalty when it feels like the goalkeeper fills the entire 24-foot wide goal.
That's a psychological.
Goalkeeper, what are you talking about?
There's a psychological element to it as well. As if you play certain players that you don't do well against.
Yeah.
There's a feeling of, I'm just going to struggle here. How can
self-fulfilling prophecy?
Kind of
prophecy.
There is a definite thing to that kind of psychological.
Like when you play Peter.
Yeah, I can't beat him. Well, I mean, this was very true, actually, talking about Dana and kind of our worlds testing. I felt like that I could never beat that Mastermind team. I tried everything I could to beat that Mastermind team and nothing worked. And I got so focused on just beating that. I didn't really think about what I was doing or what worked in my team.
Yeah.
So that later on, I played another, I got it to the point where that team could stand up a little bit to Dana's team, but then against anything else, it was useless and wouldn't do anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get so focused on one thing, and that happened against in UK Naps in 2018 against you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a team, I had the Gold Dragon team that later went on to do pretty well at other tournaments.
Yeah.
But I lost against that Mr. Fix-It team.
Yeah.
So I put Kate Bishop on a Gold Dragon team, which premise was swing through with Gold Dragon. And now I gave my opponent a global they could just push back the Gold Dragon with. So,
yeah. It was a bit of late night tilt, wasn't it, on your part?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. You need to stop yourself from tilting. So practice those bad rolls and give yourself bad rolls. I suppose that's another tip. Is if you're going to go into a tournament competitively, play against yourself and give your opponent perfect rolls, and give yourself terrible rolls or natural rolls.
Yes,
I think the tendency is to sometimes, when you're practicing a game, to give yourself perfect kind of rolls and see what happens. The opposite should be true.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is a very good point. And actually, well, to kind of the other thing, I guess it's going to help mitigate slightly is, well, having a 4-sided character. That will probably help a little bit, won't it? Which we'll talk a little bit about maybe later on. James, you've been playing with a 4-sided character, haven't you?
I have. Well, I suppose we'll come to that. But also, I was thinking about. I mean, there's not so many examples of that, but also that Poison Ivy, where it's it's all right, almost whatever face it comes out on. You would prefer the double mask probably, but if you want a character in the field, if you want blockers, that's a great die. So, but that's pretty niche because there's not too many dice, I think, like that.
So dice with energize. You mean where the double energize?
That's why energize is theoretically a really strong ability.
Yeah. Yeah, it means
unless the character face is rubbish.
Well, also they keep just giving it to characters that buff attack stats, and they should stop doing that.
Awkward timing.
Abilities,
the timing's bad. All right, well, those are some tips on dealing with bad rolls, which no doubt all of us will be putting into effect the very next time we play and can't roll a single thing. Hope that was useful. And have you got any thoughts on techniques that you use when things are going badly? We'd love to hear. And do get in touch with us using the contact details at the end of the show. But we'll move on to the next segment. All right, well, as we record this weekend just gone, the Dice Masters versus Cancer online tournament has just taken place, which was run by the chaps at the Ministry of Dice, and they were using it to, well, give the people the opportunity to play some Dice Masters, but also to raise money for cancer research. It's been an annual tournament that's kind of grown out of a real in-person event that used to take place in Southampton. Ben, you and I have both gone to that. It's always been fun. We've enjoyed a bit of in-person Dice Masters. This year, though, it was online again. It went online during the pandemic, seems to have stayed there. But the format of the tournament this time around was basically a banning all of the cards that were in any of the teams that were, I think, were top 8 in Worlds in September. So all the big WinCons, obviously your Master Molds, your Mr. Sinisters, all that sort of stuff, were all completely outlawed. So it meant that people had to go around fishing for, a kind of a tier 2 WinCon that could win the day. Who wants to talk a little bit about what happened and who won? Peter.
Stuart.
Yeah.
He played a super rare Harley Quinn team.
Yeah.
I think more people did on the day. One, because it's a very good card, as we've all experienced. And two,
thank you, James.
Two, because there were some team building bonuses if you had Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy on your team. You would get extra tickets for the prize draw at the end.
I see. Yeah.
So a lot of people were running some version of Harley and Ivy.
Yes. I mean, there were a lot of Poison Ivies, weren't there?
Yeah.
In that, the common Poison Ivy that energizes and produces plant tokens, all that kind of stuff. It seems like almost the majority of the teams had that card in it. But Harley Quinn seems to have sort of risen to the top in terms of being a common win con. I mean, Stuart, he won with a 4-1 record, but there were 3 other players I think that also had 4-1 records. He beat Alex, Mr. McCat, from Breath Weapon X in the final, and that was a Harley Quinn team. James, why don't you tell us what the super rare Harley Quinn does? Because you actually used it, didn't you, in the draft tournament that the online draft that we did.
It's a good, I don't have it in front of me, but basically it bequeaths an ability to your psychics. It says your psychics gain the text when fielded. Deal 2 damage to an opposing character, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. They also get +1/+1.
And they also get a buff, so it's 2 in 1. Flying psychics kind of thing, and board clear, which is obviously ideal in draft, but it turns out it's quite good in constructed as well.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that was popular. And then Matt Brewer, I think, was the other. Matt Brewer and Laurier were the other 2 that I think kind of filled in. Matt Brewer was playing a Living the Dream team. I think, nice. Ben, that caught your eye, didn't it?
So in particular, he had a few founder characters, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Then using the Moira Rare to grant tokens, which could then feed into a Living the Dream kind of thing. So Moira reads, it has founder, and then while Moira is active, when you field an X-Men character, purchase cost 3 or more, put a loyalty counter on Moira.
Yes.
Moira needs to be active for this to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has another secondary ability. But the idea is to get Moira out, field a bunch of other X-Men characters, including the Uncommon Beast, which is some ramp, which we quite like.
Before. Yeah.
To get kind of tokens enough to get Living the Dream. One of the things that particularly I like is it has a mutant research program.
Which
is a 2-cost basic action, which is if you have at least 2 founder dice active, draw and roll 3 dice. Which can be pretty good. Drawing 3 dice for a 2-cost is pretty strong.
It is, yeah.
It's nice to see the keyword founder not being forgotten. I wonder how much he relied on that versus the Living Dream kind of strategy versus the rare Vulcan, which is while Vulcan is active, your opponent non-fist characters get -2 defense.
Yes.
Because that's a very powerful ability. So I wonder how much he relied on that as opposed to the founder stuff. But yeah, very cool.
And interestingly, I mean, we talked about sort of mitigation and giving yourself options in purchasing. The mutant research program is the only 2-cost in his whole team, which is a bold team building decision, I would say. But
I suppose that it's always good, and even if you don't have founder dice, it's still going to give you 1 dice to roll.
Yeah,
which is not bad, but also you can make better use of it than your opponent, and your opponent is probably not going to buy it out from underneath you. So you probably have
true,
3 2-costs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. And then the Living the Dream card is the continuous one that when you've got at least 3 loyalty counters, isn't it, on any of your characters, it gives your founder characters. Is it
plus 1 attack and overcross? Yeah. All your characters, regardless.
All of them. Yeah. And then Laurier's team was a kind of Batman and Robin
thing with Joker. It's a bit confusing. Laurier, let us know what happened.
What did you do? Yeah. He had the super rare Wonder Woman and Orion. I mean, Orion, Bat Signal. It may well be
seems like stats.
Stats, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Just use some.
He does have 2 pump mobiles on his basic actions. So.
Buy a load of Orions and send them down your opponent's throat.
I guess so. Wonder Woman pretty strong as well.
Yeah,
super rare Wonder Woman. If you got to that, it does. We talked about this. It kind of negates Harley Quinn. We think.
Yeah,
it does.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because it's a when-fielded thing. Yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit before we came on air about the sort of tier 1, tier 2 WinCons. I mean, we sort of concluded that tier 1 essentially was super rare Master Mold.
Yep.
And Barry Allen, who buffs all your other characters, probably, although Master Mold probably does seem to sit slightly above Barry just based on recent sort of tournament performance. But then there probably isn't anything else in tier 1, really, is there, guys?
No.
Not currently, no.
Interesting to see what happens when Distraction's back in, but no. The super rare Thor would probably be pushing for that, maybe.
Yeah.
And then maybe that anti-monitor board cleary thing. Possibly like a tier 1.5, maybe. Or like a range type thing. Stats and clear, board clear, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what Harley's good at, though, isn't it? Right? Because she's, when she's linked up with that Batman Global that enables you. Well, and actually, it works really nicely with Poison Ivy, doesn't it? Because the Batman Global wants 2 masks, pay 2 masks, and you and your opponent can both field 2 sidekicks. But if you're getting a nice supply of masks from your Poison Ivy commons, and then you're using that global at the right time.
Yep.
And James, as I found, playing against your Harley Quinn, when you've got your Harley Quinn in the field, you can basically use that global and then immediately kill the sidekicks that I fielded using that anyway, because you use Harley Quinn's ability to do that. So I think Harley Quinn is definitely a strong kind of 1.49, maybe.
No.
Not that high. 1.8.
2 something.
2.3.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Up to 2.3. Going once, going twice.
Yeah. There was a couple of Hellfire Gala teams actually out there. Rob Pettifor, Collector Rob, again, the other half of Breath Weapon X, he used the Hellfire Gala team. I think he did pull it off on 2 or 3 occasions as well over the course of the event, which is nice.
I mean, it'd be nice if we had them.
Yeah, he's managed to wangle one somehow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure anyone else does. I mean, I saw also Mr. McCat has his power vault. Basically, action on his team as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, of course, people were allowed to proxy because it was just online, and
true.
Who knows whether that was true or not? But yeah, but no, a fun event. It sounds like, and a good time was had by all, and obviously some good funds were raised for cancer research. So, thanks to the guys at Ministry of Dice for running that. Sounded like a good event, and hope to take part next year, maybe even in person. Who knows? We will see. Anyway, let's move on to our next segment. Okay, well, sometime recently, and I can't remember what it is, when it was, or what exact episode we did this, but we talked briefly about a new spoiler card that's coming out in the Secret Wars set, which is God Emperor Doom, the rare. Don't forget that you can find all of the spoilers that have so far been revealed from the Secret Wars set in our very fine gallery that is on dmunited.eu. Do take a look there if you want to have a look at all the cards that we so far know about that are coming out in Secret Wars. But God Emperor Doom is a rare. Peter, do you want to tell us what it does?
Yes. While God Emperor Doom is active at the start of the attack step, target character dies attack becomes 0.
0, yes. And he's a 6-cost shield with a 135, 256, 267 stat line. So he's pretty chunky, but he can provide some pretty handy removal, it seems. James, you've been exploring this with friend of the pod, Jason, because he is definitely a friend of DM United. But I don't think he's actually ever been on the pod, has he? He's just been on lots of videos.
We should have him on.
We should correct that wrong and get him on the show. But he's definitely a friend of DM United, and you've been doing a bit of kind of play testing with him. And what's the nice little combo that he's been working on?
Yeah, so God Emperor Doom, we should make it very clear that it's the start of the attack step. So that could be your attack step or your opponent's attack step, which makes it considerably more irritating. And once you've made your opponent's, you've waited for your opponent's attack step, they're attacking with their huge, Franklin's Galactus possibly in this case, and you go, ha, 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 his attack's now 0, and just to rub salt into the wounds, you can then use is it Arch Nemesis?
Yes.
The Arch Nemesis Global, which makes the defense of a target character the same as its attack.
Yes.
This is not the purpose it's usually used for, but in this case, if the attack is 0, you can make the defense of it 0 at the low cost of a shield.
Yes.
And once the defense of something has been reduced to 0, it is automatically knocked out. So you're basically just removing the thing that, if they're relying on one big die, you can just have God Emperor Doom sitting there in the field and they have to deal with it or they're just not going to get that across.
Yeah. And, definitely with things like Force Attack Globals and Monsieur Mala, exactly, the good old Minky, forcing stuff to attack, it's not that difficult to make sure that your opponent has an attack step. So you can use this God Emperor Doom kind of really annoying ability. Because, Ben, I know that you always appreciate a bit of removal on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, it's interesting. Particularly one that triggers before the attack step, which one this one can do, obviously. I suppose, what's the wording on it?
Well, at the start. Yes, at the start of the attack step.
So I suppose that's post the global window, just before the attack step, isn't it? So they have to be able to attack, and you have to declare blockers.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They have to declare attackers in order for there to be an attack step, and then it triggers. Before blockers,
so you can't stop before the attack step. So it's during the attack step.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the start of.
Interesting. Useful in the kind of modern, when we do have lots of big statted single dudes running about. But yeah, no, very powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, I think. And I mean, we were wondering, weren't we, also earlier, how it would interface with something that has iron will. Obviously, we know that the Thing has iron will. There is a copy of him, at least one, that has iron will in the upcoming Secret Wars set, where iron will says that characters can only be KO'd if they've already been damaged by something else this turn. So, I mean, who knows? How does this work with iron will? If his defense is reduced to 0, but the character has iron will he be KO'd, or would he have to be KO'd by something? You have to be hit by something else as well. I'm not sure. What do we think?
He's been mortally wounded, but he's just staying in the field.
Hanging on in there. Yeah.
I like that. That's a nice image.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is very strange.
I feel like it's a question for the rules forum. Peter,
yeah,
what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
What's your feeling?
Well, I feel I'm not sure. Because, usually when something has 0 defense, it's automatically KO'd. But if it's as Iron Will, it needs to have been damaged first.
Yeah.
So if it hasn't been damaged, then it shouldn't be KO'd, I guess.
It's tricky.
But then, okay, so with Iron Will, so let's think about, like, the Vulcan, which does the -2 defense.
Yeah.
If you field a character with Iron Will and it has 0 defense because of, like, the Vulcan.
Yeah.
Is that KO'd? That must come up with Venom and Iron Will at some point. I wonder if there's a ruling on that.
Well, I'm not sure if it did, though, because that was way before Iron Will was even invented, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there was much overlap, really. Yeah.
No.
Because when was Iron Will? Iron Will was in Superman?
World's Finest.
World's Finest?
Yeah.
You don't think World's Finest was around when AVX was around?
Not really.
I can't remember when the first rotation was, if I'm honest. It's a very long time ago now. It's kind of ancient history. I was a young buck then.
Well, answers on the postcard, please. Or just write a question to the forum, and they'll answer it.
I know. I'm sure that's what happens. Yeah.
Well, Peter, nowadays they actually, lately they have been very active answering questions
to get them in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Peter, why don't you go and ask them, and we'll see, and hopefully in 2 weeks' time we can come back.
I don't know if they'll answer questions on spoiler stuff.
That's true.
Oh, really? Well,
try it.
Well, what do you say if Venom? Quote the example that Ben gave. If it's Venom, Angelo Fortunato, and Melinda May or wherever who had Iron Will, Superman or whatever. I feel like there was one that had it.
Was there? No.
I was going to say
it's Team Much.
Steel
had Iron Will. There was a Colossus that had Iron Will.
Oh, and
Melinda May has Iron Will when you have another active shield character dice.
Oh, see, told you.
There you go.
10 points to Smuggledore.
Yes.
Nice one.
Thank you, James.
The best Iron Will was probably the
first bit of trivia I've got right about Dice Masters in the whole history of the game.
The one with the energy spin down that we mentioned earlier.
What did you say?
He had Iron Will. The best Iron Will was probably
Cyborg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, so there's a question. How does Angelo Fortunato work with Melinda May or Cyborg or whoever? Let's get that answered so we know. But yeah, this card looks like it's going to be fun to muck around with. And if you want to see it in action, James, where do people go?
They can go to our YouTube page, and I'm sure they can find a link on our webpage. And if you just go, if you search for DM United, I'm sure you'll find it. And Jason and I made a video where he was playing that, and the Ben, what's his name, Ben Grimm, and I was playing Franklin's Galactus with a very fetching proxy, and it was quite well.
And dice with stickers on it. It was so good. Yeah, and a natty little drawing of what James thinks that Franklin's Galactus looks like. So if you want an insight into James's artistic abilities, then do go and check it out. But yeah, we'll look forward to when this is released. Well, the solicits still tell us that Secret Wars is coming out in December. I've got to say I'm not overly optimistic at this point, but particularly as House of X is still being scheduled for January, I think.
It just wouldn't be Christmas if WizKids didn't completely miss it, would it?
Indeed. All right. Well, so anyway, there's God Emperor Doom. We look forward to having some fun with that when it's actually out. But let's move on to our final segment. Okay, we've got AOB to mention, and the first thing we've got to give a shout out to is Peter, because he's about to do the biggest Dice Masters in-person event probably since in Europe, probably like since the European Nationals about 3 years ago.
Possibly.
What are you doing? What's going on?
We're having Infinity Gauntlet draft in a couple of weeks' time, and we are expecting 14 people.
14 people. Where is this being held, and how can people get involved in the action?
It is in Zoetermeer in the Netherlands. And we're out of packs, so no one can get
no
involved.
No one else can come. Okay. Unless they bring their own packs.
Unless they bring their own sealed packs.
Okay.
Then they can join.
It's not lost. But 14, that's brilliant. And these players, are they experienced veterans, or are they kind of retired players or newbies, or what have you got?
I believe most of them are returning players, actually, because Rick, aka Empire, who is also running Dice Fight, has been pretty active getting a community together and drumming up some old school players and that have come back to the game. One of them is going to be me, of course, and a couple of other players that haven't played in a while as well, because there's no active scene and there was no in-person play. So it's going to be nice to see some old faces back and see some new faces as well.
Brilliant. No, that sounds fantastic. And so what's the date of it? Can you report back in the next episode? That's the big
it's going to be on the 9th of December, so
maybe
probably not.
Maybe not. We might have to wait until the new year. Okay, well, we'll sort that.
I'll write up a story and we can post that.
And take pictures. Ooh, show we need to see evidence of this going pictures. On, because
pictures of maps.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, absolutely. We want teams. We want and draft Kang. That's what we say. But
always,
always draft Kang. But but yeah, brilliant for you and Rick to kind of get so many people together. That sounds brilliant, and it's good to see some life being still shown in the game there with so many people coming out. So fantastic stuff. That should be great. You mentioned Dice Fight there, Peter. James, we've got Dice Fight coming up Thursday nights, the online event that people can get involved with. Peter mentioned that Rick is one of the people that helps to organise it. 1st of December and 8th of December. What's going on?
Crikey, you made that introduction just long enough that because I didn't have the tab open. Right, 1st of December is obviously Legacy, which is supposed to be Legacy 33.
Good grief.
Ooh, that's nearly a full 3 years of Legacy.
That is right.
And December the 8th will be Pauper.
Aye, Pauper. I hope not Pauper at Modern, because that could be really sad.
It says it says Modern, but then it says, wait for it, it says Modern / Orange / Max 2 LCG. Make of that what you will. I'll have to investigate that one a little bit.
You can probably use 2 cards from one of the campaign boxes or something.
That sounds about right.
Seems to be reasonable.
Good.
Well, I wonder if when it was entered, maybe it referred to the old Modern. That's more likely.
Possibly.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be it.
They've been pretty organised.
We'll clarify that.
Yeah. Well, if you want to get involved, all you need is a webcam and a link to the Discord channel, which we can provide. on the show notes. So do have a look. It's normally a 3-round tournament, takes place at 9 p.m. UK time, an hour later in Central Europe, and obviously earlier in the day in the other side of the Atlantic. So do get involved with that if you fancy a bit of midweek dice action. Otherwise, it's been really good to have your presence with us. Thank you for listening. We hope that you found it useful. If you've got any other techniques that you think that we should have shouted out when it comes to mitigating for bad dice rolls, if you're horrified at the prospect of throwing dice out the window or melting them or burning your house down or whatever it is that James does when things go wrong, then you
don't burn other people's houses down.
That's a relief. Then do drop us a line and we might read your message out in a future episode of the show. James, what's the best email address to use?
It's hello@dmunited.eu.
It is indeed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review using your favourite podcast app. If you could leave us a nice review, that would be lovely. Because, we don't really hear that much from people by and large. So it's always nice if we get a bit of feedback to let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. It's always good to hear. So do get in touch. And we will, as a previous show demonstrated, we'll probably respond within at least 6 months. So that's.
But we will read it and take it to heart.
Yeah, we will. But thank you for joining us this time, and we will see you again next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.